Welcome to Table Talk, the place for deep conversations in the Geekverse. And trust me, when we tear into a subject, we go deep. I'm Heath, and I'll be your host. Each episode, I'll be talking with one or more creators, authors, illustrators, publishers, or other movers and shakers in games, TV, books, movies, or other areas of the Geekverse. Regular guests include Douglas A. Burton, the author of Faraway Bird, a multi-award-winning historical fiction novel of the Byzantine Empress Theodora. He's also the author of The Heroine's Labyrinth, an alternative story structure to the hero's journey that often occurs in stories with feminine heroes. That structural framework frequently comes up in our analysis of story. Brianna De Silva, she's the director and co-writer of The Cultists, a Lovecraftian comedy mockumentary-style web show here on YouTube, and the author of The City of Reckoning, an epic fantasy novel of political intrigue, the ethics of war, and young love. Cameron Pasha is a screenwriter, director, novelist, and was a writer and producer on the series Kings, a producer on NBC's Bionic Woman, and a co-producer and writer for Sleeper Cell. He's also written for the CW series Nikita and Roswell, New Mexico. He's been breaking news from inside Lucasfilm, Disney, and Hollywood. His analysis and commentary have become very popular on YouTube. We regularly meet to discuss and analyze stories, and when we do, we dive into graduate-level seminars on story structure and writing. Come on in and let's go deep. And when I say we're going deep, I mean you'd better bring your hard suit. Other guests have included Lou Anders, the author of the Thrones and Bones fantasy novels, Once Upon a Unicorn, the creator and publisher of the Norengard RPG, and the author of Star Wars, A Pirate's Price, the book that explains why the Millennium Falcon is on the planet Batu at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. Mark Tassin, the creator of the World of Ataltis, head of Mechanical Muse, former director of the Gen Con Writers Symposium, and the head developer of the new Cool Name RPG. Let's see, who else?
Bond. James Bond.
Well, not James Bond. Not yet. Maybe soon, though. But I have interviewed Jamie Stegmaier, the founder of Stonemaier Games, crowdfunder extraordinaire, and publisher of many hit board games like Scythe and Wingspan. Brian Colin, sculptor of the world of Revelo, Monster Busts, and the creator of the Vast Grim Dark Horror RPG. Ajit George, the Dungeons & Dragons author. We talked about game writing, education, and his contribution to Van Richter's Guide to Ravenloft and the development of the Journeys to the Radiant Citadel.
I am Hela, Odin's firstborn, commander of the legions of Asgard, the rightful heir to the throne and the goddess of death.
Well, actually, that interview got rather spicy, so I think I'd better just keep that one to myself. Kate Wilson, a YouTuber, actress, host, and prolific geek guru who's now working to make a new show dedicated to the world of tabletop gaming a reality. So buckle up and get ready for a wild ride, because it's time to explore the worlds of tabletop gaming, sci-fi, fantasy, and all of geekdom through the eyes of those who are making things happen.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger, ready to move out.
It's time for Table Talk. Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Table Talk. Table Talk. Welcome to my house. Welcome to my office. Welcome to the show. I'm Heath. I'm your host tonight, and I am extremely happy to have a very special guest with us tonight. Everyone knows him, loves him. Vic Mignogna is here.
You see, you lost me there at the end. Everyone knows him, but not everyone loves him.
I've told everybody before that on the one area of the Geekverse that I'm not in is comic books and anime. I haven't gotten into that yet. So I know everybody knows you from the voice acting side and the anime side predominantly. When we're going to talk about Star Trek Continues here in just a moment, but when I said I went down to
me.
my everybody else went, "Oh, Vic." They all knew the anime because all of my cousins and things like they all knew the anime, and so I was like, "Oh,
please thank your cousins for me and tell them I said hello if you would."
I absolutely will. They've got rehearsals tonight. Otherwise, they would be here in the chat, so they'll be watching on replay. All right. So we're going to be talking about a number of different things tonight, but I want to send out. Vic is the perfect person to have on the show tonight because we talk about story, Star Trek, obviously on this channel, but then we also talk about actually getting things done in the Geekverse, because the people that we talk to are writers, authors, producers, all of that. And so Vic knows all of this from both of these sides. So Star Trek Continues. Let me put this in the chat here. So this link, if you don't know Star Trek Continues, you should.
Oh,
Star
yes,
Trek Continues.
StarTrekContinues.com.
StarTrekContinues.com. The link just went into the chat. He's working on his social media on TikTok.
I'm trying. I've been told that I have a very lame presence on TikTok. So I'm trying my best to make some improvements there.
And so follow him on TikTok. I just put the link in the chat as well for TikTok. And I didn't know you had a fan club. You want to tell everybody about this?
Yeah. Many years ago, I was contacted by two wonderful girls, and they said, "We'd like to start a fan club for you." And my first thought was, "Really? Me? Why?" And they said, "Oh, well, we love your anime voice work. We love Fullmetal Alchemist. We love a lot of your work." And so I said, "Well, that's wonderful. I mean, I don't want to charge any money to anybody. If we can create a place where fans can come and meet other fans and make new friends, and we can have moderators in place that keep it a clean and safe environment for kids of all ages, then I'm fine with it." And so we decided to call it the Rissembool Rangers. And if you're out there anywhere and you're a Fullmetal Alchemist fan, you know that Rissembool is the little town that the main characters, Ed and Al, came from. So that's how we got the name. I think we have a little over 20,000 members worldwide, and wonderful, wonderful people, and a great place to meet people who love the things that you love.
All right. And I put that link in the chat as well. So that is there. And also, if you are new here as well, one thing that Vic and I have in common that we're going to be talking about is that we both have the web shows. He's got the Star Trek Continues. I have the Cultists. And so if you are here, I have my other channel, The Cultists, is my web show. Watch
Oh,
The Cultists.
Interesting. The Cultists.
Yes. This is my web show. It's a story about modern day Lovecraftian cultists who are just trying to worship Cthulhu in a world full of people who don't understand. It's shot in mockumentary style. We're completely relaunching it. We had 2 seasons, but we're completely relaunching it. Brianna, the director and co-writer, have been working on it. We got commentary here. The first 3 episodes have been uploaded. This is a brand new YouTube channel for it. So we're relaunching it big here, starting in like a week or 2 weeks or something, or relaunch the whole show. But the first 3 episodes are already up on YouTube. So if you're new here, I'd love to have you on this channel, and then also the Cultists. So if you like web shows.
Well, yeah, congratulations on this, Heath. That's very cool.
Oh, thank you. All right, then let's get into it. It's for that reason, actually, that I discovered you, Vic. So let everybody know, like, the context of this conversation we were talking about earlier. You had a conversation with Paul Chatto, because at the time, Paul Chatto was very interested in independent production and especially making something viable on YouTube.
Yes.
And I had been talking to him via email on that very subject, because I know he was interested and we had a dialogue. And then he did come and talk to me about it on this channel. So his interview is on this channel, and we talked about that as well.
Wonderful.
And then he said, you got to watch this because Vic is going to be on. He did Star Trek Continues. And actually, I didn't know anything about it until I watched that. And then I watched you talking about this production, and then found Star Trek Continues, and then went down to Neutral Zone Studios and all of that. So I'd like for this to be a discussion about independent production from all levels, all necessary levels. Do you want to tell people, start off by telling people what Star Trek Continues is and how absolutely amazing it is?
Well, I don't know that I'm in a position to say the second part. That's up to each person to decide for themselves. But what I can tell you is that ever since I was a very little boy, I loved the original series of Star Trek. When I was about 9 years old, I discovered it and I fell in love with it. Captain Kirk kind of became a father figure to me. My dad wasn't around. And I would make my own uniforms, and I would build my own little sets out of cardboard and Christmas lights, and round the kids in the neighborhood up to play Star Trek with me and shoot little 8mm movies. I would hang models in front of black fabric and run past them with the camera to make it look like the Enterprise was flying by. Fast forward 40 years, literally, and I found out that there were people out there that were making fan-driven Star Trek productions. And I was even invited to play a role in one. I was invited to direct one. And it kind of rekindled my fire for that show. And I thought to myself, wouldn't it be cool if somebody finished the 5-year mission? Anybody that knows the original series knows that Captain Kirk used to say at the beginning of every episode, these are the voyages of the Starship Enterprise. It's 5-year mission. Well, they were canceled in their 3rd season of television. And so they never had that 5-year mission. And then the next time you saw those characters, Kirk, Spock, McCoy, the Enterprise, was 10 years later in Star Trek the Motion Picture. So my thought was, why don't we rent a building, rebuild the sets as spot on, within inches of accuracy to the original soundstage as we possibly can. And then I'll bring a bunch of people together, actors, lighting people, camera people, sound people, makeup people, wardrobe people, prop people, and bring these people together. And let's make an episode of Star Trek. And let's make one as good as I can make it. And my college degree was film. So I have a lot of experience in filmmaking and all of the elements of filmmaking. So we all came together. We shot one episode, not knowing whether or not anybody would like it, because, you know, sometimes fans of any particular show or television series can be very critical and hard to please, if you know what I mean. So I didn't know how it was going to be received, but we made Pilgrim of Eternity, which was our first episode, and it was a sequel to an original series episode about the Greek god Apollo. And we even got the original actor who played Apollo 60 years earlier to reprise his role. We released it. I'm very humbled to say that it was received very well. Myself and a friend of mine funded the entire building of the sets and the first episode. That meant flying everybody down, getting them hotel rooms, feeding them every day, all of that, equipment rental, everything. But after we finished the first episode, we now had a proof of concept, if you will. We had an actual physical episode that we could say, if you like this, this is what we can do. I couldn't keep funding them. I didn't feel morally right about asking people, like launching a Kickstarter and asking people to give me money for something that they had no idea whether I could do or not. I just didn't have a good feeling about that. So I thought, you know, this is a perfect example of putting your money where your mouth is. If you believe in this, put your money into it yourself. So that's what I did. After that first episode was well received, though, we launched a Kickstarter, or as we like to call it, Kirkstarter. And we raised enough money to make episodes 2, 3, and 4. Then we launched another one and raised enough to make 5, 6, and 7. And then we launched one more crowdfunding campaign to make 8, 9, 10, and 11. So we created, in total, 11 full-length, live-action, full cast, full crew, effects, music, all of it. We have well over 17 million viewers now, and it picks up where the original series was canceled. It returns the Enterprise to Earth, finishes the 5-year mission, and leaves everybody right where they were when the motion picture begins.
We talked about that on Table Talk with Doug. I sent him, he watched Star Trek Continues because of that. He said he hadn't seen it yet. And I said, but no, he bridges it perfectly. The series and the first movie, even the uniform changeover. And
yes.
Like, oh my God, I got to see that. So,
and you know, when the motion picture came out, Spock was back on Vulcan, pursuing this culinar discipline. Kirk had become an admiral. Dr. McCoy had left the service altogether. So in my mind, I was thinking, wouldn't it be a great story to dive into why everyone is where they are when the motion picture comes out? And so it was a lot of fun to craft stories and storylines and character arcs to explain why Spock decided to go back to Vulcan, why Dr. McCoy left the service, why would Captain Kirk ever accept promotion? I mean, anybody that ever watched the original series knows that the only thing Kirk loved more than women was his ship. And you would have thought that he would have had to have been dragged kicking and screaming off the bridge of his ship. So there's a good story there. You know what I mean? What would have been the reason that he would have decided to do that? So that's what we did with Star Trek Continues. We picked it up immediately where it was canceled and finished the 5-year mission.
Okay. That I think that Zero the Blade is saying that this is dedication. That is dedication for your love of Star Trek. And Romer M says Vic always does things from the heart.
Oh,
and that's
Romer. Thank you, Z Blade. Thank you.
That's why I think that Star Trek Continues is a major, a giant success and a major major landmark in science fiction and fantasy, because it shows what can be done by people who actually care.
You know what? It's a combination of things. I know that you want to talk about these things, and that's why I want to make it a very important point here. There have been dozens and dozens and dozens of Star Trek fan productions over the years of all varying degrees of quality. Now, all of them cared. All of them cared deeply. They must have loved Star Trek, right? They made uniforms. They maybe built some sets. They rounded a bunch of people up. They spent money that maybe they didn't even have to get special effects done and all of that kind of thing. But one of the things that was missing, I believe, from a lot of them was just not knowing how to put a television show together. It's not an insult to say people don't know what they don't know. You know what I mean? They could have the best of intentions. They could have a genuine passion and a deep, fully committed heart for the subject matter. But if they don't know how to light a scene, and they don't know how to get it to set up a good camera angle, and they don't have good actors, and they don't know how to get good sound, and they don't know how to edit the footage together in a compelling way, you know what I mean? There are so many things that have to come together. And if any one of them falls apart, the entire production suffers. So what I think Star Trek Continues had going for it was that we were not only were we committed, not only did we care deeply, but we also had the requisite skills necessary for creating what we were trying to create.
Well, let's talk about what it takes to get something like that off the ground then.
Okay.
I've got footage. If people have not seen this, I've got footage that I shot when I was at Neutral Zone Studios.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to put up on silent while you talk about it so that people can actually see the sets walking around.
Absolutely.
So
Rocket.
here, this is it's I got it. Hang on. I always have to reload it and I forget. But go ahead and what does it take to get this off the ground? I'll have that up in just a second.
Well, it certainly takes assertiveness and, stubbornness, so to speak. I have such enormous respect for people that actually accomplish a goal. I walked away from Star Trek Continues with a deeper appreciation than I ever had for people that actually write a book. Not talk about writing a book, write a book. And not just write a book, they get it published. And they actually accomplish it. You know what I mean? Or a graphic novel, or a painting, or any number of things. People sit around smoking cigars or having drinks and talking about, you know what? I should do this, and I'm going to do this one day, and this is going to be great. I'm going to do this. Talk. It's easy to talk about stuff. It's much harder to actually do what you talk about. And fortunately, we had an entire cast and crew of very committed people who did what they said.
You're never going to believe where I am. Sorry, here it is.
I know that.
You can believe where I was.
Okay, so yes, here's our beautiful bridge.
Yeah, the monumental effort. This should show you the monumental scale of the complete rebuild of this set.
Now, guess what is in that view screen right now that was not there when you were there?
What?
There is only one television that would actually fit in that view screen to scale. The view screen from the original series is 4 feet by 7 feet. It's a 100-inch flat panel. Oh, now you're in the crew quarters. All of these sets, you guys, there are schematics of the soundstage drawings online, but they're missing something very important: the dimensions. They're missing the numbers. They're missing the measurements and the sizes of things. However, if you find one common object that you know exactly what size that object is, then you can extrapolate off of that object. You can calculate how big everything else is. And that was what we did. We know that there were 4x8 sheets, panel sheets that were used on the sets in building the corridor and the sets. And so as soon as you identify one 4x8 sheet, you can tell how long the corridor is and how wide the corridor is and how big a room is. And as soon as you know that the pads that they stood on when they beamed out in the transporter room were 20-inch in diameter Fresnel lenses, as soon as you know that measurement, then you can calculate how wide the whole transporter platform is and how big the room is. Looks to me like you're on the move here.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, these are the crew quarters. We don't call them Captain Kirk's quarters or Mr. Spock's quarters because in an effort to save money, which was the primary goal of the original series of Star Trek, they just built one crew quarters and then they redecorated it based on whose room it was supposed to be. They did a lot of things in order to save money. You notice the sick bay fabric that's on the bed, it's on the wall. We had that custom made because that fabric doesn't exist anymore. And so we actually hired a textile company to weave that fabric for us. And all of the sets are laid out exactly like the original soundstage. Excuse me, there's the big bending corridor. And then the first room you come to on the left is sick bay. And then across from sick bay, there's a little short hallway that leads to the transporter room. And then further down the main corridor on the right is the briefing room. Then the captain's quarters. On the left is auxiliary control. And you just keep working your way down. Crew quarters after the briefing room. And even the Jeffries tube that Scott used to climb up into to effect repairs. We rebuilt the entire soundstage. Oh, engineering!
Yeah, it was so amazing. This was the first thing you step into, and like I was just
now
electrified when I walked into that.
Notice the wall on the right-hand side. That wall was not there when we shot our series. In fact, if you want to see any room, you're going to see it there. See the wall with the cable up on it? That wall was not there.
Yeah, this one right.
Because if you want to see the room, you have to be outside the room if you want to see the whole room. Engineering is huge. But when we shot our series, there was no wall there. And we were able to move the camera 10 or 15 feet back so that you could see this beautiful set. And look at it. It's 2 stories tall. It's huge. And all of those detailed pieces on the walls were all custom made. And they match exactly what was on the walls in the original series. We had a welder make that ladder so that it could be functional. You could actually climb up it and have actors climbing up and down. You're about to see, it looks like you're about to see that tunnel again that's got the fencing in front of it on the right-hand side. That is, when you're shooting on camera, it looks like it's 30 or 40 feet deep. But in reality, it's only 12 feet deep. It's a concept called force perspective. Basically, the idea is the further something is away from you, the smaller it looks. So all of the tubes and the pipes and even the numbering on the tubes and the pipes get smaller and smaller and smaller. I'll bet you're about to spin around here in just a minute, and we'll see it again. Here he is. He's coming around. Coming around. Keep going. Pan right. You can do it.
Hang on. Let's go. Let's there. So
there it is. There it is. Right there. Right, you can't beat that. There it is.
That.
If you pause that.
There.
Now, what's funny is that on camera, it looks huge. With your naked eye standing in the room, you're like, no, it's not quite as big as it looks, but it fools the camera. It doesn't necessarily fool the actual human eye, but that's not what it was made for. It was made for the camera. It was made to shoot a television series, and it works very well.
Yeah, this was so amazing to walk into. On the tour, that's the first thing you send people into.
Yeah, and one of the reasons we do that is because the engineering room, first of all, we were the first people to build that. No one ever built that before. It's just too big. It's a monstrous undertaking, and nobody ever built the engineering section. And in the original soundstage, it was at the opposite end of the corridor, but we didn't have space to put it there, so we put it up where you saw it. Now we're getting ready to walk into sick bay here.
Yep. How long did this entire set construction take? How long did you?
I would say the basic sets. You can see there in the back there the Romulan, the Romulan center console from a Romulan bridge hanging out back there, and notice that wall missing back there, because from back there, turn around like you're doing.
There's the shot.
Look in, there is the classic master shot of sickbay. Now, ideally, and I would tell people, there you go. I would tell people, if you're going to take a picture, tilt down so you don't see off the wall, off the set, and ruin the illusion. But with the exception of the engineering section, all of the sets are where they were in the original footprint. There's that beautiful fabric again. When we shot our first episode, I tried to find that stuff everywhere, and it just doesn't exist anymore. And so we were only going to make that first episode, remember? So I thought, well, pick your battles, Vic. You've got a whole set, you've got a whole sound stage to build here. Don't obsess over sickbay fabric. So we found something that was close, and we used that. But then after we shot our second episode, and it looked like we were going to be able to make more episodes, we contracted a textile company to actually weave it for us.
This set was so meaningful for me to be on. And I know that it was for a lot of other people on the tour as well, because this means so much to so many people.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I remember I had it was a Romulan bridge control concern. I thought that's what it was when I was there, but then
You are correct.
I confirmed
You're
it. So I
correct.
got in. The emotional impact that this set has on so many people when they show up is
If you can
incredible.
pause that real quick.
Oh.
That is a probe or a torpedo tube that we had made for our ninth episode. Our ninth episode, or as I like to refer to it, the black and white episode. It was called What Ships Are For. They beam down to this planet where everybody only sees in black and white. And you come to find out that there's some sort of a radiation canopy that is blocking certain color spectrum. So the people on the planet only see in monochrome. And Scotty refits a probe to launch into the atmosphere to counter the effects of the radiation. But when he does, the people are going to see, and the people that live on this planet are going to see in full living color. And what's significant about that is the people that live on this planet, Hyalinus, are very isolationist. And they don't want anyone from any other worlds there. They've got their own food shortage problems and population problems. What they don't know is that there are tens of thousands of people from a neighboring planet living there, and they never knew because they only see in black and white. They don't see the skin tone color difference. They don't see the hair color difference. We wrote this episode and shot it and released it during the time when the whole border dispute was in the news. So this was a very socially relevant, topical story, as Star Trek was very well known for.
Very well known for, yes. I always liked the torpedoes in the movies, so it was great to see an original series version of the torpedo.
Yes,
the torpedo rooms, and that was one of my favorite things.
One of my favorites. The beautiful.
Yep, here we are in the transporter room.
Gosh, man, I love this set. Now, those pads that they stand on, like I mentioned, are actually Fresnel lenses. They're big movie lenses from movie lights. And that squiggly, translucent kind of plastic material that's on the back of the chamber, on the back of the transporter chamber, is actually something that's still available called drum wrap. It's the stuff that goes around the outside of kick drums and snare drums and stuff. Oh, you got somebody working the lights for you.
Yes, someone was working the lights. They agreed to work the lights for me. They were very gracious while I was going around and filming, to helping me, do this and do the lights and things like that.
I love it. I love it. Love it, love it, love it.
Okay, so
as you can see, just from looking around, a lot of love and time and effort went into building these sets. Now you're going to get up close. Now you can tell they're light lenses. And those lenses, the real lenses, are glass, and they're very expensive. We knew what they were, but we couldn't afford to buy 6 of them. We were a fan production. We didn't have that kind of money. So what we did was we borrowed one from a production facility. I was living in Los Angeles at the time, And we borrowed one from a production facility, and we made a silicone mold of it.
I'm going to show that here in just a second.
Good. And then all you do is you pour clear resin into the mold. There it is. And you can make as many as you want. And they look exactly like the originals.
When people think about, well, making a show or a fan film or something like that, this level, well, I mean, you're talking about being able to make something, a scale of this set, the scale of this set is not
There's a
something
good
most
shot of that drum
there's
wrap.
the drum.
Drum wrap. Yeah.
The drum wrap.
Yeah.
Everybody likes to stand in here and get the picture. Like this is what
Oh, yeah, right?
Did.
Yeah, like what would it look like standing on the platform? Exactly.
Yeah, that everybody wants to know, what does Kirk see?
Exactly. And you know what? I want to say something that I always say on the tours that we give, Heath, and that is, this is the auxiliary control room set. We built this for our third episode, and we built it in an area that we used for many, many sets. Every episode we shot, we needed a new set of some sort, whether it be an alien council chamber or a starbase commander's office or a guest quarters or auxiliary control, any number of sets. We needed an open area where we could build them. And this area became that very valuable area where we built those sets. But what I was going to tell you, and I feel this is very, very important. I tell everybody this on the tours when we, by the way, and anybody that's watching, in 2 weeks' time, we are going to have our January Fan Appreciation Weekend. I would be remiss not to tell you, the beautiful corridor, that 1 weekend a month, briefing room, 1 weekend a month, we open the studio free of charge, and I go down and I give people walkthroughs of the sets, answer questions. People take videos and pictures, and it's, you can imagine, for classic Star Trek fans, it's
magic.
It's like stepping into a dream. It's surreal. It's a lifelong bucket list kind of thing. But I have something very important that I say on the tours, and as we're looking at these sets, it bears saying now. The story is the most important thing. The story is always the most important thing. Always, always, always. You know, anybody can go to Lowe's or Home Depot and buy a bunch of lumber and paint and nails and and build sets. Star Trek was not known for its sets. It was not known for its special effects. It was known for its storytelling. The Jeffries tube. And this is what I tell everybody. The reason that we built the sets as accurately as we possibly could was so the audience would forget them. You don't want your audience focusing on the sets. You want them focusing on the story. So when the camera fades up and they get their first look at the sets, that first 10 or 15 seconds, they're like, oh my God, I'm on the original Enterprise. It looks just like I remember it. And they accept that they're on the original Enterprise, and they give you permission to tell them a story. Conversely, if the sets are not accurate, if something's the wrong color, if something's too big, if something's out of place, if something catches their eye, they're preoccupied with what doesn't look right. And what they're not doing is paying any attention to the story. So the reason a lot of fan films focus on costumes or sets, but the most important thing is and will always be story. When we started Star Trek Continues, we set a very high bar. I was determined we are not just going to run around in uniforms and flip open communicators and fire phasers and fight the Klingons. We are going to craft thought-compelling, morality play, social issue, moral quandary-driven stories, which is what Star Trek was known for.
What was the process for coming up with those?
They came from many different sources. I had several ideas that were core ideas, but then we would have somebody write a screenplay version of it, right? Like I would say, the first episode, Apollo comes back and he wants to be worshipped. He thinks he needs to be worshipped to have life energy, and I lay out the basic idea of the story. The second story, an Orion slave girl stows away on the Enterprise seeking asylum from the slave trade industry, and her owner comes out to claim his property. So you can imagine the morality issues there. Our third episode was a sequel to a very popular original series episode called Mirror, Mirror. And my premise was, what happened when Mirror Captain Kirk and his landing party went back to their Mirror Enterprise? What did Spock do? Mirror Spock, goatee Spock. What did Spock do with that challenge that good Captain Kirk gave him right before they beamed away? So we laid out a basic outline, if you will, and then we would hand the stories off to different people to turn them into screenplays. They would hand me the screenplays, and then I would make adjustments. I would do what Gene Roddenberry did. I would script edit to make it my vision for the episode. And if there was a scene I felt, ooh, this would work better if we did this, or I think this guy should say this line, not this. We don't need to say that. And just, make some little revisions and nips and tucks before it was actually committed to shooting.
Because that's also from the script perspective. I was thinking, you said that a lot of film productions will think about the costumes, the sets, all of the props and things like that. And those things are a lot of fun. And I love building things too and making things like that.
Oh, me too.
But it does start with the script. Like,
exactly.
So if you're going to start someplace, it has to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. I went down and I went down dozens of times and helped build these sets myself. I love building things and building sets and making props and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's the story that matters. It is always the story that matters. And you know what? If you have a good story, what else do you need? Good actors. You've got to have actors that can execute the story. You could have the greatest story in the world. And if your actors, you know what I mean? If your actors are not capable of pulling in the emotion and communicating the power of the story, then it doesn't matter how good the story is.
How did you cast it?
I cast it with friends of mine that were actors that I knew. Many of them voice actors. Some of them were actors from different Comic-Cons that I had attended that I'd become friends with. And a lot of them were just Star Trek fans, but they were good actors. Chuck Huber was a voice actor, and I wanted him to play Dr. McCoy, and he did a great job. Todd Haberkorn, voice actor, but great actor, and he played Mr. Spock. Michelle Specht did a great job playing an original character that we created, Dr. McKenna. Grant Imahara did a great job as Sulu. I would be remiss not to tell you guys that the guy that played Scotty is named Chris Doohan. And the reason that is important is because if you know who played Scotty in the original series, it was Jimmy Doohan, Chris's dad. Chris played his father's role. And Chris is going to be joining us at the studio in 2 weeks for the January Fan Appreciation Weekend.
So both
Free
you
of
and he will be
charge.
there?
Yes, I will be there. Chris will be there. We'll be giving tours, taking photos, signing autographs. And if you can possibly make it down, go to neutralzonestudios.com, neutralzonestudios.com for all the information on where it's located, how to sign up. But again, it's free of charge. We open it up for people to walk through out of nothing but sheer love of Star Trek. And I know you've had Ray Tessie on your show, and Ray is a dear friend. Ray purchased the studio from me when we finished our series, and Ray will tell you he has no interest at all in making money with these sets. His only interest is in paying the bills, the rent, the utilities, so that it can remain intact and well kept for people to continue to come and enjoy it free of charge.
Did you direct the show, or did you bring on a director?
Star Trek Continues.
Star Trek Continues, right? Yeah.
I directed several of the episodes, but I executive produced all of them, which means that even if I wasn't directing, you know what I mean, I was still in charge of making sure that we got what I wanted. So right. Even if I wasn't directing, if I was just playing Captain Kirk and they were setting up a shot, and I would go take a look at the monitor and go, I don't like that shot. Let's put a different lens on it and move it over this way a little bit. You know what I mean? I had my hand in every element of the production, but we had a lot of really, really great directors. Wonderful people that Julian Higgins, James Kerwin, and myself, I think between the three of us, we directed all of the episodes. And then I edited all of the episodes as well, and chose a lot of the music. So we had a lot of really, really great people involved in this production. Very, very good people.
So it seems like being the producer seems common to be involved in everything like this in an independent film. But so that was another advantage that you have when you're talking about why did this work and other things might not have. You knew all of this, like all these different roles.
Yeah, that is true. As we were shooting it, I'm looking at the camera shots we're taking, and I'm editing. I'm imagining in my mind how I'm going to cut these together. And so having a working knowledge of production, filmmaking, lighting, camera composition, movement, blocking, editing, sound design, all of it, all of those things are very advantageous when you're putting together a fan production on a shoestring budget where nobody's really getting paid. We gave everybody a little bit of money for food every day, but everybody, and we covered people's travel and their hotels, so they, weren't out any money of their own. But everybody involved was a part of it because they wanted to be. They had a passion for it. And I'm very proud to say that in 11 episodes, with the exception of maybe 4 or 5 people, the same 30 or 40 people came together twice a year to shoot an episode. We all became, developed this great chemistry and camaraderie and friendship. And I think it comes through on film. I think you can tell, even if you don't really know what it is, you can't quite put your finger on it. You can tell that we're having a good time. You can tell that we really love what we're doing, and that there was a real sense of family and community there.
How long did it take to shoot an episode? How long was production for an episode?
Well, you might be very surprised to when I tell you that the original series shot, they had a weekly show, right? So they shot every, 7. They had to get an episode out every 7 to 10 days, right? We shot our episodes on average between 7 and 10 days. And we never had any pickups.
Oh, whoa.
We always made our day. We always made our schedule, our shooting schedule. And not only that, but we'd finish the day, and then we would go out to one of the restaurants in the town, in this beautiful little town of Kingsland, Georgia, and take over a restaurant and spend all night together. 30 or 40 of us smoking cigars out by the pool, having drinks, chatting, just, enjoying being there together. It was a really wonderful experience, something I will always be proud of. And even though I've done a lot of voice acting work for anime and video games and audiobooks, and had the privilege to be a part of a lot of very popular series like Fullmetal Alchemist or Dragon Ball or One Piece or Bleach or Naruto or Pokemon, I feel like Star Trek Continues is probably the best, the biggest and best thing I will contribute to the world when I'm gone. Hopefully people will be enjoying it for years to come. In fact, my dream is that they'll watch the original series and then they'll go right into watching Star Trek Continues as if it were canon. Gene Roddenberry, the creator of Star Trek, his son, Rod, not only has been to our studio, but he has publicly many, many times said that not only does he consider it canon, but he thinks that if his dad were alive today, he would consider Star Trek Continues canon as well. And
oh, wow.
I don't think you could get a much higher endorsement than that.
No, I don't think you can. I was seeing, actually, people have been saying in the chat that they consider that Star Trek Continues canon. I've seen that go by a couple of times with people's.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
I suppose you're talking about having a great time even in the evenings. So 7 to 10 days. 7 to 10 days gets you an hour show.
Yeah.
But when I was when we were shooting The Cultists, I loved the camaraderie as well. And of course, even the first time I was there, we were shooting, and the first time through, I was like, well, how is this going well? How would I know if this were, going badly? How do I know this is going well? And I was like, well, how would I know?
What's my frame of reference?
yeah, right. I had no frame of reference, but then I was like, well, I suppose it would be going since I couldn't answer if it's going well. How do I know if it's going badly? Well, if we weren't meeting our schedule, if we looked at dailies and was, oh my God, this is just completely wrong, or we can't get things in, or we're there for 12 hours every day. I said, well, then I guess I would know it was going wrong, and we weren't having that. So the ability to do it in 7 to 10 days and do it in a relaxing kind of atmosphere that you really enjoy is also important.
And get your shots, get the performances you want, get the shots you're looking for. Accomplish everything you set out to accomplish and not hate each other by the end of the day.
And yeah,
most people don't realize what a rarity that is. When you work closely with 10 excuse me, with 20 or 30 people all day long for 10, 12 hours, usually by the end of that 12 hours, you don't want to see those people for the rest of the day. You just want to go back to your hotel. You want to go to a restaurant and get a little something to eat and be done. You know what I mean? Get away. It was never that way. In fact, when we were on our final shot, and every day that we were taking the final shot of the day, one of our crew people would always run around the whole studio and let everybody know where we were going to dinner that night. Somebody would come to me and say, "Where do you want to go tonight?" And I would say, "Let's go to Wasabi." And you could hear them running around. They'd run across to the other side of the building and they'd tell the people in makeup and wardrobe, "We're going to Wasabi tonight." They'd run down and tell the prop guys, "Wasabi for dinner." The next night, it might be Longhorn Steakhouse. The next night, it might be Ruby Tuesdays. The next night, it might be Applebee's. But the beautiful thing was that we all went together. We all stayed in the same hotel. We carpooled over. We spent all day shooting these beautiful things together. We made this beautiful piece of art together and had a great time doing it.
Because it is such an in-the-moment form of art. I mean, you got to get through post-production, I know, and the editing. But anytime you get everybody together for any one episode or anything, the only time it happens is then. And each one of them is something that's magical and special. And that's why I realized it would be very easy to become like a film hippie as I was doing my shows, because I was like, man, this is really fun. I can see why people live the film hippie life. I can see, I can understand the allure.
Yeah, filmmaking is a lot of fun. It's very fulfilling to come up with an idea that is nothing but an abstract thought in your mind. And then months and months later, to see it completed with actors and dialogue and music and sets and sound design and special effects, and to literally, will it into existence when it was just an idea to start with. There are not many feelings like that. It's like writing a song. I write a lot of music as well. And anyone that's ever written a song, it was just in your head. It was just an idea in your head. It didn't exist in anywhere else on the planet but between your ears. And when you put it, when you actually commit it to a recording and you sing it and you share it with people, there is a feeling of satisfaction unlike most other feelings.
That's a lot of creative expression is like that.
Yeah.
But
I think that's what draws people to it, whether it's dancing or singing or acting or writing or filmmaking or drawing or painting or any number of creative endeavors. I think that's what draws people to it. Is there is such a sense of satisfaction that I have created this idea in my mind, or I can see this painting or this drawing in my imagination, and now I'm going to take a pencil and I'm going to commit it to paper. And to be able to step back 4 hours later and go, "Oh my gosh, there it is." And that's the way I feel with Star Trek Continues.
But the difference is, like, if it's just writing your novel or something, it's you. It can be an individual thing or a painting. But the film and the web show, you have this experience together, and it's such a joy. It's that whole experience.
It took a large number of very talented, very accomplished people, and we had a lot of amazing people as part of our production team and our actors, our cast.
Well, Vic, I know you said that you had an out at 8:00 here.
Yes.
So that seems like a fantastic place to leave it. Although, man, there is still a whole lot more that we could talk about and things.
Well,
like
maybe we can set up another.
I would love to have you back. I would love to have you back. And we can extend this discussion. Sometimes people know the regulars on Table Talk. We're here live, by the way. If you're here and you haven't been with us, I would love to have you subscribe. We're here live Tuesday and Thursday nights. You can find our discussions of Star Trek, the movies, on the channel. Sometimes they're like 5-hour long discussions of the movies. We talked about Star Trek 6 for 15 hours.
My goodness. Well, I won't make you listen to me for 15 hours, but I would love to come back and talk more about the details of filmmaking or our series or post-production, or I mean, there's pretty much not a question about Star Trek Continues that you couldn't ask me that I couldn't spend an hour talking about. And I'd love to take questions from your chat as well next time.
Yes, I know.
In the meantime, let me say again, check out neutralzonestudios.com.
That's right here.
I'll be there along with Chris Doohan in January 2021. We've got another one in February, another one in March, another one in April. So come and join us. You will never experience anything like it in your life. I assure you. I promise you.
Well, we should definitely do a part 2, because there is so much that happens a lot when we do an hour interview on this show, on this channel, that we kind of get to know somebody for the first hour and talk about what they're doing and what they've done, and the big broad brush strokes. But then we get deeper if people come back, and we just keep going with the conversation. So I think it'd be great, and also then take people from the comments as well. We can get questions and things like that. There's a lot that we can do, and I think that we can really contribute and push forward a conversation about independent production and trying to make it successful today, because we need it.
I would love to do that.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you, everybody who is new here. I hope you've enjoyed it. Please do subscribe if you have. I would love to see more of you. In fact, we're talking about Star Trek next Tuesday. We're talking about Star Trek Generations and First Contact. Doug will be here. So if you want to join us for that, I will see you guys Tuesday. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Vic. Thank you.
My pleasure. Take care, guys. Thanks, Heath.